biggest funk. Thoughts deep, boys steeped in the depths that he sunk. Big stress, depressed in the middle of fall. Sky gray, I late in the thick of it all. I wonder, how long can a human survive just staying alive or carrying the rest of the tribe? Waiting for the day to arrive, or struggling dies, and I be doing way, way more than getting by. So why? Got myself a cup of coffee, sipping water in it softly, cleansing me of stress I hold. Hey, got myself a cup of coffee, sipping water in it softly, cleansing me of stress I hold. Eyes realize life is so much more than just living a day. Every day I can sit and reflect and breathe and connect to myself and know that I've been given. See, giving up is not an option. So when I'm looking at gray skies, I'll be adopting a new way to deal with a test. Lord, relieve me of stress. The rain be looking like when blessings drop in. And so I got myself a cup of coffee, sipping water in it softly, cleansing me of stress I hold. Coffee, sipping water in it softly, cleansing me of stress I hold.
Oh, wow. You were just flying at a height of 167 feet, traveling at 32 miles an hour. It's good to see everybody tonight on Divided We Stand. It's 8:12 Eastern Daylight Time. We'll soon be approaching Eastern Standard Time. And a lot going on this week. And I actually don't even know where to begin. But I will begin with my co-host, David Price, and I'd like to welcome him and all of you at home. Dave, great to see you.
Yeah, Brian, listen, new intro. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the first time I saw it. It's the first time you saw it. There were very good parts to that intro, but I do have, Brian has the hardest time finding some of his things too, Tammara. So, Brian, would you help Tammara out? Tell her how to find, don't use the tweezers, but tell her how to find your, no, not your thing.
The best thing anybody can do, quite frankly, and I mean this seriously, folks, the best thing you can do is subscribe to our channel on YouTube. You can't miss it because when we have that, you get notifications if we're going on. As soon as that thing goes on, it gives you a notification. We also go live on Facebook, Divided We Stand. We did put out some promos for that earlier today, so it really depends on which platform you want to use, Tamara. We do switch things up with our intros. That was just something for today, some kind of hip-hop sound I decided to put in there. But no, we can be found fairly easily. Again, we've got...
Give Tammara directions, not your whole
I thought I just
goddamn...
did.
Yeah,
I thought I just did.
Tell her what to do right now.
Right now, she's here. There's no doubt. There's no
okay.
need.
Well, you don't need to give 7,000
Dave, look,
options.
okay.
All right, listen. No. I've got the full. I've got the. Oh, hey, we're gonna do a
Why are we
debate.
having both names? We should have both names here. Something happened with both of our names. Last week it did work perfectly, and we had both of our names when we were
fine.
side by side. That's kind of
here's the
upsetting.
thing. We're gonna do, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna do a debate tonight. So every time that Brian talks, I'll talk over him, and every time I talk, I'll just shout louder because Brian will try to talk over me. Hey, Kim, while we're getting there, Emily, hey, how's it going? Yes, I assume, well, actually, I got a haircut too, but I got my hat on. I see, Brian, we got a user coming in while you're trying to help Tammara. Got a haircut. Brian, listen, like I said, I like the intro. The only thing is the bells in the beginning. Was that like some kind of goddamn?
I was experimenting on
that word.
Stop.
No, stop. The bells sounded like bad outtake from a Tubular Bells. I was waiting for your head to start spinning or something.
Okay.
Yeah, it was good. It was good. I'm not criticizing.
Okay. We got so many comments coming in. I don't even know where to begin.
That's because I don't know why. Have you got Tammara hooked up yet?
Well, she's here. I'm think what she's saying. If I have you right, Tamara, that you're having a tough time, knowing that we're going on per se. That's I think what you're saying. Facebook cannot see the YouTube chat. No, you can't. You cannot. So that is an issue. So I'm going to post the chat, okay, as much as I can, and keep up. So I know who did this one. Got a hair. That's got to be Joey Fulcher because Joey can't help himself. And we got a smiley face. I don't know who you are. We got Emily's in the house. Kim sent.
Yeah, why don't you come? I've already said all that. Why don't you come in an hour and a half later? You know what I mean? Like, stay on task, Brian.
This is the task. This is the task.
Oh, okay. I don't know what the hell we're doing here.
Okay. She said, I typed in Divided We Stand and I got the group. Right. Well, that should happen. And on the group page, there should be a live feed on the group page. Okay. So I hope. Well, you know what? Go to YouTube. Either that or Periscope, but go to YouTube. Go to Divided We Stand. You can't lose. That's all. Just go to YouTube, and you're good. And subscribe that way. Dave, it's that simple.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to point out that this man, blustering and doing whatever the hell he is, he's a teacher, and he's teaching American youth. And we wonder why President Trump says they're being indoctrinated. I think with Brian, they're being indoctrinated into, dare I say it, stupidity.
Okay, I gotta cut in here because Tammara said the music group. Yes, on Facebook, and Dave will like this. On Facebook, there is a group called Divided We Stand, which used to have more numbers in it. That's from an album from the Dixie Dregs with Steve Morse. And so a lot of people who like the Dixie Dregs join that group. Okay, so when you type in Divided We Stand, you're going to get a Dixie Dregs thing, which is great because I like that album, Divided We Stand, actually. But that's not the right why we named it this name. But now we have actually more members than them. Not that it matters, but just choose the one that's the political group, not the Steve Morse Dixie Dregs thing. So that's the story behind that.
And Tammara, if you wanted to, this might work. I'm not sure. If you like Dixie Dregs, if you type in Dregs of Society, I know you usually get a picture of Brian. So maybe you would get that. He is one of the dregs of society. He and Donald Trump together.
Well, remember the Dregs had a song called "The Dregs of the Earth." So I am that.
Yes, you are that. That is true, Brian. So Brian, how you been?
Well, I've been busy. As you know, I got a new computer, and I'm probably testing it too much tonight by putting in 2K video and all that kind of thing. It says, no, I cannot find you on YouTube to subscribe. Well, it's there. It is there. In fact, we'll take a little trip there. How about we do that, Dave? Real quick.
Brian, I always like trips.
Okay. Now, Dave, I know Dave's going to have a comment on this, and hopefully he'll be able to control himself. So let's take a quick peek.
Oh, Lord, here we go.
This is our newly designed YouTube page. It is really going after the female market because we seem to be doing better with females than males as far as our group.
Brian, may I interrupt for a moment?
I knew you would interrupt.
Well, here's what I want to say. You tell me, and again, ladies and gentlemen, this is my second look at this. You tell me we're going for the female market, correct?
That would be correct.
Then why do we have 3 goddamn pictures of you?
Okay.
Up there to get females? I mean,
Okay.
you know what that would be like, Brian? To me, that would be like, let's see. What do I want to say here? That would be like, I'm doing a Mr. Pence. I'm not going to answer anything tonight. Ask me a question. No, go ahead, Brian. Let's get to
Here's the quick point with this, and this goes for everybody there. Why we do this is that it was the first time I'd experimented with using Photoshop with a new computer. I just threw in 4 photographs. Actually, all 4 of them were me. I took a gender swap on one of my photographs.
Ladies and gentlemen, he does a lot of gender swapping, not just here, but in real life.
Yeah, well, only Dave would know that. Okay.
Brian, where'd you get that T-shirt, man? Is that like from the 1935?
This one has a pocket in it. Okay, this is okay. All right.
Okay, all right, man. I was just wondering.
Now, look,
white T-shirt.
So anyway, what I'm going to ask folks to do is go to Divided We Stand. You're going to see this attractive picture. That doesn't matter about anything. It's just that we thought from a marketing standpoint.
No, let's do I.
Okay, start. It's basic marketing. It's something that you learn in pop culture because quite frankly, YouTube seems to be a male market, and we have to remember you want everybody. You want it inclusive. So why not market to the opposite sex? And I thought that would probably be the best way. You know what I mean? So we'll see how it goes. I think it's important. And we want a diversity, not just male, female, but obviously just everybody inclusive. Any type of group possible, except for Trumpers.
Hey, Tammy, good. I'm glad.
All right. So that explains pretty much anything. But please, if you would subscribe, I think it'll make it a lot easier for everybody. And if you think of it, please, send that to other people if you think they'd be interested, because this is kind of another pet project of ours to try to get this thing going on the side. It's not as popular as Facebook for us, but it's something that I think will be helpful in the long run. So yeah. All right. So I think that explains it. If you have any issues with that, just tell me and put it in the chat, and we'll find out. I can't find this.
No, they're old, Brian.
All right, you'll be able to find it. Okay, it's called.
She got it.
Okay, she's got it.
She says okay. She says okay. I'm here.
Love those. They love the pictures, Dave. They love the pictures.
No, they said. I think Gary Peacock said, "Lose the pictures." I thought I said so.
Oh, lose the pictures.
Yeah, that's not love. Jesus Christ, you can't read.
Gary Peacock. Gary, I'm not listening to you on that. Only Dave listens to you, okay?
I like Gary, okay?
I know you do. Okay.
He's a good man.
He's a good man. He's a good member of our group. But I'm not going to take any marketing advice from Gary at this point. I did take his advice about posting the comments quickly, so I will do that, okay? I will put different pictures. I will agree with you with this, Gary. You may not like the pictures. I am going to change those. Yes, I won't make the wide-eyed guys. That's not going to happen. But look, it was the first thing. I'm just experimenting here, so
no.
Okay,
Brian. I assume your barber was experimenting on your haircut. Where the hell did your hair go?
It went in the trash can.
And so, I'm assuming you like that.
I cut my own hair. I use this. It's the only thing.
You are serious? You cheap son of a bitch! You cut your own hair.
Well, Gary, by the way, I have to interrupt because Gary says the pictures might attract. I thought it might keep them away, actually. The militia type. So that is actually
aren't they? But they're fine people, right? The president told us that.
Yeah, well, that's what I actually want to talk about first.
Well, go ahead, Brian. Let's get started.
Yeah, let's do it, folks, because I think that's important. Okay, so Recently we had we had an attempt on an abduction of a government official from obviously the Michigan state government, the governor, okay, Governor Whitmer, it'd be Gretchen Whitmer, and I think the most, first of all, it's just absolutely astonishing that somebody would try this in this day and age. You just wouldn't think of it in this country. But I think what bothers me more, Dave, is afterwards, this Dars Leaf or whatever his name is, I think it's Dars Leaf. He was essentially trying to make excuses for these fellows and think there's some kind of legal maneuvering around this, saying that that perhaps they should not be prosecuted in some way. Well, he was spotted at a rally for this domestic terror group, so he's actually in cahoots with these people, and I'm certainly not surprised. But I think, Dave, what I'm going to ask you about is
Sure.
Where this thing's going to go, because here we were lucky that the Attorney General in Michigan did something about this. But our Attorney General from the United States, Bill Barr, did absolutely nothing. And as far as I'm concerned, he essentially is a traitor for not trying to protect a government official, or anybody for that matter. He's supposed to protect us. What say you, Dave?
Well, your cause, your big cause before we got this page started was the environment, correct? I mean, that was something you were really involved with. The
I would say that
we're going to die from it, right?
Okay, hold on. Well, I'll just say this. My big cause is not the environment. I think the number one existential threat up until last year was the climate, and Trump was doing nothing about it. I've always feared Trump. I've always thought this was a de facto coup, Dave. But it wasn't until maybe last year, maybe 2 years ago, I think, 2 years ago. Yes, I would say 18, where I said, okay, this is a coup, and this is an existential that we could obviously find this as a greater threat than climate change. Because climate change, we could see ourselves 6 years down the road being in trouble. But with Trump, we could literally say, okay, in a year or two, we're going to lose the country. And then from there, there'll just be chaos.
Well, mine was not. Yeah, I know. Mine wasn't the environment, although I believe that we're in serious trouble. Right. We need to do everything about it. Mine was really a misreading of the Second Amendment. If I had to pick one cause, obviously we have education and racism and sexism, but everybody's got to kind of have their cause. And so mine was the Second Amendment. Now, first of all, there is no such thing as a militia in America. None. Zilch, zero, none. Okay? There isn't. Why? To have a militia, the government has to declare a militia. The thing that we have that replaced the militia is the National Guard, right? That's really what in olden times would have been the militia. Now, if you go back and you study the militia, that was when America was founded. What they were one of the number of the things they were terrified. Slavery wasn't one of them because we built that into the Constitution. But they were terrified of a king with unlimited power, and they were terrified of soldiers, right, under the direction of the king. So they wanted citizen soldiers. Now, you look at the Second Amendment, and I'm not the smartest person in the world, but I have spent, what? If you count my college, what's that? That's a whole friggin' bunch of years.
You sound like one of the, Dave, can I interrupt you?
Yeah.
That was pretty good. That actually sounded like one of the Go-Go Gophers when you did that.
That's why I did it. That's why I did it.
It's one of your favorite cartoons. I know that.
I do.
He still watches it, folks.
I do. That and Rocky and Bullwinkle.
Right.
And The Simpsons. Anyway, let's take those first words. All right, let's start there. A well-regulated militia. Now, Brian, you're an outstanding business teacher, and I don't want to be
very nice, Dave. Thank you.
I don't want to be one of those squidgety, horrible, grammarian, Nazi kinds of things, but sometimes words are very important, and this is one of those times. Let's begin the Second Amendment. A well-regulated militia. Okay? Now, the NRA, around the 80s, maybe a little, right around the 80s, decided they would eliminate that word from the Second Amendment. And because of their power, and because in general Republicans, I have no problem saying this, were bought and sold by the NRA. And before we think that's horrible, and it is, there's too much money in politics. And the NRA was willing to give unlimited money that it had at the time to candidates who would do their bidding. So all of a sudden now, we start arguing over you can't have any regulations. I'm sure you've heard that. Take my gun. Bullshit.
Right.
Okay. That in itself is unconstitutional. Now, because so many people, I got an echo, Brian. What are you doing?
Oh, sorry about that.
Yeah, I know. Ladies and gentlemen, he just doesn't work with it.
No, I switched the scene, and in that scene, I had the loop back on. Okay, I'm sorry.
That's okay, Brian. Listen, here's where we're gonna go with this.
Are you Stan Laura or my Stan Laura or Oliver Hardy? I don't know which one's
No,
which
I want to
tonight.
be. Who do I want to be? I guess I want to be Lucas.
I
You
think
could be
you're
Bud
like
Abbott. I'll be Lucas.
No, you're like David Tell or something. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Well, anyway, here's where we go. Regulations are fine, but basically states controlled by Republicans, have decided to do things that weren't even done in the Wild West. I say this all the time, but I think this is so important. This myth of the Wild West, the leading city of that was Tombstone, right? Wyatt Earp, Doc Holliday, the gunfight at the OK Corral. If you go out to Tombstone today, I've been there a couple of times, they do the recreation of the shootout. How many movies? Val Kilmer was in one, etc. And this, well, in Tombstone, the first damn thing they did when you arrived in town was made you check your guns, right? Let's go to the Patriots, not the New England football team, but the people we call the Patriots win the revolution. They go home, and you know what happens to all their powder, Brian, to fire their muskets? It was collected and put into storage. So only the government could distribute the powder when the militia was needed. So first of all, we're so off base. I think
we know that there was no doubt about it.
All right, but here's what
the written law
the question
and what's actually happening are two different things. We got that.
Well, no, but the problem is nobody on the left, because we're besieged with so many problems. Everybody, I really thought that Sandy Hook would change America. I really did. Jesus, they were beautiful little kids and gunned down by a psycho murderer whose mother. Now you got the nutcase whose mom drove him across state borders to shoot. And now he's a hero. No, Gary, sorry. That's like saying you're what? You're a liberal conservative. There is no such thing as a rebel militia. They're rebel terrorists. They are terrorists, plain and simple. If you take up weapons against the government in America, you are a terrorist. Now, that doesn't mean if Trump were running the country, I wouldn't take up guns against Trump, but I wouldn't call myself a militia because I'm not, right?
It just doesn't even sound right because they don't even sound like they're trained.
A militia, the technical militia must be endorsed by a government. They're calling them domestic terrorists. I like that, to separate them, from international terrorists.
Dave, can I cut you off for a second?
Yeah, sure.
I want to know, you're talking about these, you agree that they're essentially domestic terrorists, but
right?
Don't you think in any normal society, if this kind of thing happened, and then you sent the National Guard against these people, or any type of military organization, it would shut these people down pretty easily? Because we know historically, you're big into history, but I know one thing, historically, never has a paid mercenary, I should say, won a war for a country. They've never won it.
Well, interesting thing. One of the reasons we got freedom when we did is nobody in Britain wanted to fight the war, right? And so they went out and hired Hessians at the time. Today we'd call them Germans, mercenaries, and come in. So your point is right. Well taken.
You don't win though, and they would not win. I mean,
well, they're not going to win. Wouldn't. Look, they're just like Donald Trump in this respect. They huff, they puff, but they don't have the power to blow your house down, right? They just don't. They get out there and people are, and what's sad is, and I understand this, you see those guys with guns. Now, Brian, I'm going to ask you a question and I'm going to answer it the other way. And again, ladies and gentlemen, Brian and I have this agreement. When I ask him a question, I'm not asking it for him. He's representing all of you,
all
right?
of us,
right? So he's the everyman.
And by the way, you're all welcome to join. If anybody wants to join us
Oh.
tonight, I can send you a link, and you'll be
Oh
on
yeah,
in
you can
3
be
minutes.
in or
Anybody,
but Eddie,
come on down.
Or if you don't like that, send us questions and we'll answer your questions.
Right.
Or try.
But
to.
you can come right on the air right now.
So Brian, here's a question for you, answering for all of them. Have you ever been in the presence of people in a state that had open carry?
You're not going to like my answer. I have been in an open carry. I was in Russia, and they were allowed to carry these air type.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Okay.
Let me rephrase.
No,
in
I have
America.
never. Listen, I have never seen anybody, whether in a state that allows you to open carry or not. I have never seen an open carry, this or that.
And that would be
licensed.
That would be many people, especially on the East and West Coasts, right? But if you travel the South, or you travel especially the far West, you see them. The first time, I'm not a brave man to begin anyway, but when I saw them, it was a clerk at a convenience store who was, in the terminology, packing. And in came 3 good old boys who were packing. Mm-hmm. So the thing that you have to do, Brian, here's the first step. We're already taking the first step toward gun control. Those of us who are voting against Donald Trump and for Joe Biden, and the reason I say that, ladies and gentlemen, I want to qualify that. You may vote for any candidate you want, but if you vote for anybody other than Joe Biden, your candidate will not win. And I include Donald Trump.
Tammi says that she lives in
Good, Tammi, right? Yeah, and they're crazy. Okay, they really are. But so the first thing is to defeat Donald Trump. Why? Because he look, they're his people. I mean, they're his. You talk about Michigan, he comes out. I hate that. But by the way, Governor Whitmer, you better open up your state. Well, that's what they're there for, right? To try to force her to open up her state. So that's number one. Number two, I don't know if this is legal, but based on my understanding of the Constitution, and which is not, I don't have a law degree, you could pass national laws prohibiting open carry nationally. Now, the problem with that, Brian, is that the national government is always afraid of overreach, right? Of overreaching. And I can understand that when you had 13 colonies who became 13 states. But we are so diverse now. And to anyone who was, if this were a right-wing show, the Ross Weinstein show, or the Brian Hannity show, I would make the same argument. The idea of it is, we are just there's things that we need. We need when we're in a pandemic, which is a national crisis, we need national mask laws. We need national distance laws. The problem is enforcement. I got all that. We have to do that. And it's the same thing with guns. So, the idea of it is, if we get Joe Biden as president, and I believe we will, if we get control of the Senate, and I believe we will, and when we maintain control of the House, one of the first things I will be doing, and I'm fortunate because I live, 4.6 miles from the White House. What does that make it? 6 miles from Congress, 1.9 miles from the Pentagon. So I'll get out there. I'm going to protest and call for those things, just because I think we are, Plus, I want to get back. I don't like to be revengeful, but it really disturbs me, the stupid ass terrorist endorsers who said, you can't put regulations on my guns. The fuck you can't, right? Last point I want to make on this, and I swear to God, I'm not name dropping, although it might sound like it. I'm trying to make a case. Living here, you get to see a lot of people that are in the news. And 3 different times I had, and I really consider it a great opportunity to hear, question Judge Anthony Scalia. And one time it was on. Scalia is the justice who wrote the opinion in the Heller case, Washington, D.C. gun case, that everybody talks about you have the right to carry a gun. And I'm quoting his own words. I took it down. I wrote about it. And somebody asked about, what does that mean? He says, of course you can have regulations. But this was a bad law, an unconstitutional law, and it could not stand. So the man that's revered, right, for writing this opinion that led to the false assumption that we had the right to bear arms everywhere. And if you really want to get technical, you can go back and research what bear arms mean, and not bear arms, B-A-R-E, like Trump would spell it. But bear arms historically is a military term. So here's the problems. You have the word well-regulated in the Second Amendment, well-regulated, all right? You have the word militia, which doesn't exist anymore. Does the mere word of that word having militia not existing, does that mean citizens shouldn't have them? Or does it mean only the militia should have them? Or in order to have a gun, do you need to volunteer for the militia? You could make all those arguments, right? And then you come along with the idea of the word have the right to bear arms. Does that mean that the arms were for fighting? Now, originalists in the Constitution say no. Do you know why they say no? Because you had to go out and hunt your food. Brian, again, you're answering for everybody. When's the last time you needed a gun at the supermarket to kill yourself a cow to go home and eat the beef?
Well, I would only have to kill a pack of Skittles, so that never happened to me.
But would it have happened if you lived in the time that the Constitution was written?
Yes.
Yes. And there you are. And I'm not against the Constitution. It's a brilliant document who's been extended. But I tell people, if the Constitution were medical doctrine, would you abide by it? No, because we know more today. We know more today, right? So, long way of answering, but that's how I do it because this is my soapbox. So I find what the 6, and now actually it's 13, Brian, you do realize that, right? 6 were given federal charges, 7 different people in a different group were given state charges, and there was an intertwining in the group. I find that despicable. I find it treasonous, and any penalty put on those people is not enough as long as it's under the law. Secondly, I charge the president of the United States with being treasonous to the American people by encouraging an enemy of the American people, these false militia, to
like
take
Kyle
up arms.
Rittenhouse.
To take up arms against a duly elected governor. In America, we don't kidnap, and I think people miss this. Maybe they don't. I'm sorry. I shouldn't say that. I'm assuming. Brian, it was a 3-part plan. They were to kidnap her, put her on trial. Obviously, the trial would have been on YouTube. Would have been available for everybody. Pass judgment, and I'm pretty sure what judgment they would have had, and the penalty would have been execution. This was just not some fun joyride. And the president is talking like he comes out and says,
he encouraged it recently.
I'm going to use my favorite word. It's the only word because I think we cheapen it. I think the worst thing you could do is be not a motherfucker, right? But a mother raper. That would be, in my opinion, it wouldn't get any lower than that. So Our motherfucking rapist president says, well, Governor Whitmer, she didn't even thank me. Do you really think, Brian, or anyone out there, do you really think if he knew what the FBI was doing, he would have encouraged them to continue? Absolutely not. He would have pulled them.
Because that's just how they are,
Pull them. Now, look. So we've got some things we can do about it. Now let's talk about the fear. And you expressed it very well, Brian. I'm only one person with my ideas. Right? I try to research as best I can. Certainly, as I tell everyone, man, I didn't see Trump winning. I saw him coming because I knew what he did in New York. I knew what he did in New Jersey. I knew that he would be the worst president in American history.
And I want you to hold. I mean, we're going to come back to that because I want to talk about.
But just okay. And I'll just finish this real quickly. Okay. But once he is gone, we can start to do the things we must do. As long as he is there, there is no scenario that any of us can concoct that we would have to say is unbelievable. And he has two streams running under that orange, whatever the fuck that is on his head, in that brain of his, is this. One is, I am great. I am above the law. The rules don't apply to me, right? And secondly, because he is ignorant, and there's a difference between being stupid and ignorant. Ignorant is you know there's things out there to find out and you choose not to. He does not know anything about how government should work. So he is a clear and present danger the day he was elected. He is a clear and present danger today. I would suggest he's more of a danger today because we don't know what that chemical cocktail that no other human being on the planet has ever taken. We know what some of them do individually. We know that you can get roid rage from it. We know you get Superman feelings, that people have done it. They know that. And now, again, ladies and gentlemen, if you don't watch this show often, I think why Brian and I make such a good team, or one of the reasons we do, is we're both realists. Would you agree, Brian?
Absolutely.
Realists, pretty much pragmatists, but you lean more toward the pessimistic side of reality and pragmatism, and I lean more toward the optimistic.
Correct.
So I'm coming from the optimistic side, and I'm going to say to you, not to scare you or not to scare anyone, to me, one of the most dangerous, no, I'm going to take that back. The most dangerous period that America has ever entered when we weren't at war will begin November 3rd and end January 20th. And what does that mean? That was interesting. And,
by the way, I think you would agree, as much as I agree with you, Dave,
right.
I think that you would agree that if there were a spark before then, it certainly is a possible. I don't think it will happen, but if there were a spark, if something did happen before then, and Trump gets desperate and does something, I mean, who knows what he would do?
Well, that's the problem, right?
Happen.
You don't need to explain. It's who knows what he would do.
Right.
He's erratic at the best of times. He's a narcissist, as Tammi put up there. He is beyond narcissism. If there is something beyond narcissism, he is it. Now, it was interesting. Again, my wife Judy, and Judy's not really a political person. She's more a Brian. I got the echo back. Whatever you just did. Okay. She came up with something I thought was really interesting last night. I mean, she won't, as soon as Donald Trump was elected, she said, I will never say that man's name. And she never has. She just says number 45. That's her form of protest. But last night she had an interesting thought. She said, you know what? Going from November to January is too long for the transition. And I started thinking about that. Do you know why we have that long a period?
Well, I was under the impression that the incoming administration needs time to prepare, and the outgoing one has to help them in that process.
That is true, but that's not why it was done. That's how it's been done. The reason was, Brian, think about this. When elections were first held, did they have voting machines?
No.
Television?
No.
Radio?
No.
Telegraph?
No. Smoke signals?
Well, can you see a smoke signal?
I got that from Go-Go Gophers.
Can you see a smoke signal from Okefenokee Swamp to Bunker Hill?
Yeah.
No. So the point was, a lot of that transition was really to give time for the vote to get counted, right? To get it out to everybody and to come back. So I think, when Joe Biden wins, I would hope that everything is on the table. The Electoral College, the expansion of the court, the end of the filibuster, the long delayed statehood for Washington, D.C. and Puerto Rico, a relook at the Second Amendment, a re-strengthening and restructuring of the First Amendment, all those things. But I also hope, on that table may be a look at, do we really need that long for the transition? Now, one of my fears, not a fear, that's not a concern, is we're going to get rid of Trump. Okay, he's going to be defeated on November 3rd. And I'm going to go so far as to say, if I would take Vegas odds right now, that we'll know before 8 a.m. November 4th. I think that's, I wouldn't have believed that 2 weeks ago. I think there'll be enough votes and we'll figure it out. However, no matter when we know, Joe Biden will be the next president, unless, as you say, something we can't even think of. And it's nothing Trump could do. It would have to be something outside. So, and you mentioned, Brian, about the transition, and the time. Trust me, Joe Biden knows who his cabinet is right now, right?
Right.
For the most part. I'm sure many of his cabinet members know who's there. I'll just throw out some names tonight. We're not going to spend time on them. I'm going to make some predictions. And this assumes that the people want to be in there. Elizabeth Warren, if she wants to be in the cabinet, will be there. Let's see. Bernie has said he would prefer to stay in the Senate. That's where he's more valuable, I think. I think Pete Buttigieg, if he wants to be in the cabinet, would be there, especially now with his close ties, being the Mike Pence stand-in for Kamala. I think the next Supreme Court justice nominated by Joe Biden, if he wants it, will be Barack Obama. All good names, right? So I just think, but the things I was, we got rid of Trump. Well, yeah, but we didn't get rid of Trump's supporters, did we? And we didn't get rid of the GOP. And we could go on for days. I still don't quite get it. I'll mention a little bit later in the show why they're jumping ship now, but they're still out there. So until they are crushed, and I don't mean crushed like killed, I mean crushed like without power. So the militias made powerless, the Electoral College abolished so that Montana can't have as much power as California, right? All these things. There's always a possibility of another Donald Trump out there, right? Mm-hmm. So that's my concern. Oh, Tammi, absolutely. Now, again, I'm not an expert in secrecy, but I am sure, as certain as I am sure that Brian did something to his head that made him bald, that the powers that be working on, they're hiding our assets now, meaning getting people out of the country that have been our spies, moving things around, changing code names, because they are 100% aware that Donald Trump is motivated by two things, and they're kind of related. One is what's good for Donald Trump, and the other is money. And revenge is in that factor. And so he would be, why not? Why wouldn't he sell out our secrets?
Well, I'm going to get to that. I still want to rewind just a little bit and kind of.
Darlene, I hope I'm only confident for myself, Darlene. I'm not trying.
Right, he's 2 for 14, so let's remember that.
Trump.
And he admits it, right?
How many times was I right on the Supreme Court, Brian?
You were right 2 for 2, so I agree with you.
Yeah, I mean, it depends.
Right,
I admit when I'm wrong. But let me just say something real quickly to Darlene. Darlene, what I'd like you to do, because you're on here all the time, and I really appreciate that. Instant message me if you want to do a phone call. I'm fine with that. Anybody on the show, I'm available. Brian jokingly says, the man who has nothing to do on Tuesday night, Saturday night, all the stuff that I was doing, the writing, the speaking, the touring, all that has been put on hold. I don't think I'm going to be a lecturer on a rock and roll cruise anytime soon, which was set up for 2020. So I've really devoted a lot of time to this, and that's what I want to do. And maybe give you some assurances. There is no certainty in life, absolutely none. But why some things that, and people will, and you could give me not your arguments, but what people are telling you. What people are telling you.
Right.
So Darlene, anyone, because sometimes you don't want to discuss that. I mean, I would here, but I don't want to take up everybody's time.
And Dave has, quite frankly, and we won't divulge any names, but Dave, there have been some serious questions on Facebook where Dave has decided it was best to talk with that person privately.
Yeah.
And that's the way Dave does it. Sometimes he would prefer to do it that way. And if they're willing to discuss it privately, Dave will call you. So we're just normal people here.
Well, Brian, I'm normal. We might need a battery of psychiatrists to determine that with you.
All right. So a couple things, and we don't have to do it in any specific order. This goes way back in our discussion. And, we've been in general talking about how, why do people vote for Trump and why in 2016 were you wrong about this and that?
Mm-hmm.
I was watching some of the changes that have gone on in Russia where, you see these loud concerts and you see the hip hop, something that I never would have seen long ago. And I've always, I go back to when I was in college, Dave. There was one course that I took, and you may think of it as, I'm not going to make your decision, but you may not think of it as that much of a course. But I took a course in pop culture.
Oh, no.
Seriously.
Very important course.
And,
very important course.
There are certain myths that, pop culture courses will look at. For example, one of the myths is that technology will be our savior and those kind of things. The wholesomeness of America in the 1950s and things like that. But I think that there's just, we tend to think of most Americans as extremely educated. When I was filling out the ballots, and you probably know, Dave, for yourself, these ballot questions, and then you have an interpretive statement, which is just as weird as you can't. I'm saying, how does somebody who's uneducated figure that out? Because I was struggling with it, trying to think, okay, what exactly are they saying here? So I'm thinking, again, going back to pop culture, that what Trump does, for better or for worse, for him, it's effective because maybe he doesn't know it completely, but America moves by pop culture, and
certainly,
and it's been going on ever since there was advertising and then the advent of television. You mentioned, we didn't have television back in the past, but now things move so quickly, and we are so attuned to what we see, a perception that it's so quick that in minutes, for example, even myself, I have to catch myself. I'll see some depressing news, and then I'll say, shit, I've got to call Dave up. This isn't any good.
Right.
Bill Barr doesn't want to do anything about what's going on in Michigan, and then automatically my entire mood changes for the day. Now, I don't know out there, and I'd like to get some comments about that, about your mood. Can it change from what you see?
No.
And again, we're talking about from the media, that from 1 minute to the next, I can have a different outlook on what's going on. Where, Dave, you're the reader and you avoid television for the most part.
Like the plague.
The print. I think that there's one thing good about obviously getting most of your news through reading, is you're not being affected by the visuals, and the visuals are so powerful. It's
Brian, absolutely. You're speaking so
better.
True for all of us, and not that I'm better than anyone else, but part of that comes from when I was a reporter. And I watched the reporters that I worked with, the people, we'll call them wordsmiths. And then I watched the radio reporters that I worked side by side with. And I watched the TV. And it was three very different businesses, right? And I think you put your finger on it. Journalists, if they're in print, work with words. And words have power. And they have weaknesses too, right? Mm-hmm. And radio has power. Radio is the voice.
War of the worlds.
Well, that's true too, but the mesmerizing voice. I always say with Hitler, obviously we know how evil Hitler is, right? But I still wonder to this day, when I see somebody walking down the street, you rarely see it, but if I see somebody with a Hitler mustache, I think that's one evil person. The little, and so is that. But his voice, if you go back, and I don't know German, but if you just go back and listen, you begin to see he was a master manipulator. of his culture.
It's
and
when he
people
got angry and then he gets
yeah, but I mean, it was
things.
just, and he had passion, which is something that can move people, right? I mean, it's bad passion.
And Mussolini to some extent also, which is why if you looked at Trump in front of
Right.
the White House when he came back from Walter Reed,
Oh.
he had that Mussolini look.
I would have admired the shit out of Trump if he had come back in a gown and sang a song from the opera Evita, because all I could think of was Juan and Evita Perón up there. And coming to find out, do you know what his favorite musical is?
Yeah.
Evita.
Right.
And now, of course, the clever people out there have taken to call it Covita. But no. Brian, I do want to talk about that power of the media, though, for a moment. And then TV is visual. And today we are visually oriented. There's no question about that. Those of us that are older, remember more the power of the word. I mean, I remember, I grew up with TV. I mean, I was born in 1952. But radio was still somewhat important. And if you go back and research the culture, you said pop culture. If I had my way, history would be taught through pop culture, what we call pop culture.
At least at this point in time, Dave.
No, every time. It should have the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because they're popular movements. And we get history. We get these academics. No, I mean, I'm not putting them down. Sometimes they write for other academics. So what does that mean? Well, I'll give you an example, Brian. I told you this, but I want to tell the other people. Again, we sound like broken records, but I think it's important. New people come to the show. New people come to the page. Not quite as unbelievable, but since May, Brian, this thing, and I give you full 100% credit for it. You created it. You founded it. You asked me along for the ride, and I said I would come along for the ride to help out.
Well, I knew I knew in my mind it's the only thing I could have done. I
Right.
knew something had to be done, and the only way was to do it this way, or it wasn't going to get done the other way. And I knew that you obviously politically were the same as what I was, and you obviously have the insight. And so there you go. And it was simple.
Well,
and it was pretty easy to market it too.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Just like us.
But 1,000 people, okay, that's pretty unbelievable. But before we get too carried away, the other night, you talk about pop culture. The fly on Biden's head. My God. Now, I can only give my own reaction. My wife and I were watching it, and I don't know. I thought it was on the screen, a fly on the screen. And I said, hon, and she said, because she's an artist, so she's much more visual. Well, that fly on the screen. Again, so many clever people out there in the world. Somebody created, by the time before the debate was over, actually, they created a Twitter account called The Fly on Biden's Head. By the next morning, less than 24 hours later, they had 78,000 followers. So that, you talk about the instantaneousness of today.
Right.
We go on for that for hours and hours and hours. The point is well taken. Now, here is where Trump is a master. He is a master con man. And he's a master of television. He really is. But he doesn't understand the limitations of either one. So that's why he'll fail. But I would never call him not a master con man. And he understands that power of television. Again, if anybody wants, I'm not doing the show. Not because I don't want to. I just want to take up time. I can tell you where he fails at that. So, and eventually what happens, I think, Brian, and this is my core belief, that in America, there's something instilled in us, not at birth, but as we come up and we go through changes, it really does, in most of us, kind of instills at least some kind of sense of fairness and decency and respect and this kind of thing. We don't all show it. We show it in different ways. And I think one of the things that obviously you're going to see 2/3 of America will not tolerate is an authoritarian, an authoritarian, fascist, would-be king who is 100% insane. We've never had it. That was the number one fear of the founding fathers. they really did everything they could to avoid a king. And here we are in 2020, for the first time in American history, we have a man who believes it would be best for America if he was if he was a king with unlimited power, and that will not work in America.
Okay, Dave. There's a lot on the agenda tonight, and I wanted to actually go to some of the posts that you actually had on Facebook and share that with some of the folks on YouTube.
Cool.
It'd be really, really interesting. Now, perhaps
I do want to talk about that.
Do you want to have a lead into this before we put it on?
Well, yeah, this was interesting today. Again, living in Washington, D.C., I get to do things, and I make it seem like I go to the White House. I do go to the White House all the time, but that was not my primary thing today. I'm doing some filming for a project I'm working on in the Beatles. And I asked Jude, I said, you want to go in? And she's more cautious, but she does go in with me. So we went in. I said, I'm taking a walk up to the White House, kind of knowing the timing. And I said, you want to go? She said, yeah, we like to walk. So we're coming up there. Now what I saw to lead into this picture, it was unbelievable. And that's why I love DC so much. Brian, on the walk, I started at the Smithsonian Castle, if anybody knows. So that's the National Mall. And all of a sudden, marching down, maybe 100 people, is a protest for Belarus. And I posted that right before the show. I don't know. Do they speak? Is Belarusian?
They speak Russian, yes.
That's what I thought.
Well, yes. And if you can speak Russian and read Russian, you can read Macedonian, Belarusian. You can read Ukrainian.
I knew it was
Church Slavonic.
Yeah, I knew
Bulgarian.
And so you see
close.
Now, then
but the Belarusians are like Russians. They don't like being called Belarusians. They call Belarus. There's a connotation,
But obviously,
Ukrainians
we're not
don't like
going to go into
little
that
Russia
because it's not about divided we stand in Russia and Belarus. But they're in a conflict right now over authoritarianism. So you see that. You turn, headed now toward the other side of the mall, and there's a woman. I haven't posted that. I will post it later tonight or early tomorrow. Who, to honor her 95-year-old mother, 93 or 95, I'm not sure, mother, who said to her, I've lived a long time and never seen anything like this. And she was talking about the pandemic. She has started a grassroots movement, which is going to do quilts for the pandemic, very much like they did quilts for AIDS, right? Again, a form of protest. Then you head up. So we cut down, and now we're headed up Pennsylvania Avenue, and you go by Freedom Plaza, and there's a rally for an African nation. Right. And I'm thinking, okay, we'll get up there. And of course, when we arrived to turn to where you go, the roads are just closed, right? Completely blocked, 3 blocks around the White House. Again, I posted some of that you saw. And I actually went to see Trump. He keeps ducking me, but I thought, he's there, right? He's never there on the weekend. So I started, and this was taken for those who know anything about DC, on the opposite side of the White House on Lafayette Park. And that was as close as you could get to the White House on the north side. And there were all kinds. It's right by Black Lives Matter. So this gentleman was with a group of 3 or 4 people, and I thought, well, that's kind of weird. And come to find out, Brian, this gentleman is running for Congress in your state, my former state, in the 9th district, and he is a very verbal, a very articulate, and a very charming Donald Trump supporter. So we had a conversation. I just taped a little bit of this.
Can I put that on?
And now you're going to play. That's the lead in, and then I'll follow up with a couple comments. Go ahead, Brian.
Now, hold on. Let me pause it for 1 second because I want to make sure if you speak, it will have an echo. So we're going to use this so we can catch the Facebook feed. Okay, so I'm going to mute you for a second, Dave. For a minute, we're going to watch this. Hopefully, everybody can hear this. We'll see. And here we go.
I'm not going to ask a question, though. Let's go ahead. What's the question?
Okay. So we're here outside the White House. As you can see, I'm going to pan around. A lot of different activity, a lot of different groups. So we have a gentleman here, and he's going to explain to us
what he is doing here. So why are you here, sir? Well, I'm out here because Blexit is doing a rally here in support of the police here in the United States. And I just came out here to show some support, coming all the way from Patterson, New Jersey. My name is Billy Pratt, I'm running for Congress in NJCD9. And I'm just out here meeting with some of the public. I came out here down the block just to kind of see what's going on from the White House. I wanted to see what Black Lives Matter is doing here. I haven't interacted with anybody, I haven't said anything crazy to anybody. Yet people have been throwing a lot of rocks. And when I say rocks, I'm talking verbal rocks here, no violence. But a lot of people have been very disrespectful. I'm trying to have a dialogue. You've been a good gentleman to me. Well, thank you. We try. Yeah, that's fine. You know, and I appreciate that respect that you have the decency to at least come and ask to see what I'm doing out here. But I'm just out here to support our police, support our country, support our president.
All right, so hold on, Dave.
Right, a little hard to hear, but what he said was the most important at the end. He's there for three things. Number one, he is running for Congress. Now, you know, the reporter's motto, if your mother says she loves you, check it out. I come back, first thing I do. He is indeed running for the 9th District. He is from Patterson, New Jersey. He got 76% of the vote in the Republican primary. He was there for two reasons. Now, remember today, Brian, this rally was only open to two groups, selected groups, Black members who were thought to support Donald Trump and Latino members supporting Donald Trump. So that, you know, he was there, as he said, he was there to check it out. And also he was there to speak about two things, his support for the police and his support for President Donald Trump. So I said, we're going to turn off the cameras
and
now.
Himself too.
Well, of course.
Right.
And I said, look, you know, we've got to talk.
He wants support from Trump.
Well, of course he does. Of course he does. So just real quickly, his background to show you that not everybody is a toothless white, refugee from.
Right. I mean, and that's what people have to understand is no matter what diverse group you're from, there are individuals who will be outside the norm.
I would, if I could convert this guy into right thinking, I'd take him in a minute. Anyway, basically, he raised some interesting points, which I think our group needs to understand. Number one, there may not be many, but there are Black men and women in America who support Donald Trump. Right? That's number one. Number two, he comes from the military. He was in the Air Force. He has a college degree, and he's a community activist for Black causes in Patterson, New Jersey, which is, Brian, I know, anybody who knows New Jersey is predominantly Black. So, of course, my first question was, come on, seemed like a nice guy. What the hell are you supporting Donald Trump for? And here's was his answer. He said, because Joe Biden in 47 years has made no significant contributions to the Black community, and he made enough, backed enough laws, and was friends with Strom Thurmond, and all these things you could bring up, right?
Well, that's basically Antonio Reed brought up. I mean,
exactly. We've, and that's true. I mean, if that's your viewpoint, I mean, that's your viewpoint. He said, which I hear all the.
It's obviously cherry picking certain facts, but it's not.
Well, they are facts, though, Brian.
Well, look, okay, but the Democratic Party, the Democratic Party has done a lot more for the.
Brian, he wasn't talking about the Democratic Party. He was talking about Joe Biden. All right, Joe Biden has done things in history,
absolutely,
that looking at today would not be acceptable. Okay. But they were you got to look through that lens. No person can look through the 21st century or live in the 21st century and look completely through a 21st century lens.
Right. What would you be, David, in 1776 or even 1860?
It doesn't matter, right?
I
mean, certain things. Yeah, I'm not condoning slavery or the Civil War. I'm just have to look through the mirror. So that was one thing. This is something that still a lot of people have held. I had this conversation 6 different times this week with people who are Donald Trump supporters. Oh, am I boring you there? Whatever.
Look, I need oxygen here.
Okay, Donald Trump.
He's looking at me more than he's looking at his own thoughts. Okay.
I don't care about it.
Half of his brain is like, what's Weinstein doing?
Well, anyway, here's what you got, right? He said, and I've heard this, like I say, from Donald, Biden has 47 years, and what's he done? Trump's only had 4, and he's the first man in office to keep his promises. Now, we know that that's not true, okay?
Right.
But his supporters don't. Third point that he made, which I thought was very interesting, he said if Bernie Sanders were running, he would be a much better candidate and Donald Trump would be in trouble.
Again,
I don't
like
share
Antonio.
that.
Sounds
What?
like
Yes,
Antonio.
I'm telling you. Well, this is this is another. By the way, anybody, we're not doing one of these in conversations. Antonio is Brian's nemesis on another side, who then we battled him. But anyway,
Well, it wasn't necessarily on your side either, Dave. Okay.
Well, see, I don't care. I'm the only one I need to be on my side.
Look, I consider him he's on my Facebook friend. I mean, I get
we're not
along
going to talk about.
cordial.
Shut up. We're not talking about Antonio. You're always talking about. Okay, so you're right. The point is, Brian, that both you and I, and I'm sure other people, have met people like this: intelligent, articulate, educated, and for Donald Trump. I don't get the fourth one. Okay, I don't. How that package goes together, but it does. So, of course, knowing that Antonio was from the state, we made a little wager. So, if Donald Trump wins the presidency, whether Bill wins his congressional seat, which he won't, and he comes back down to D.C., I'm going to buy him a lunch at the place of his choosing, and if the reverse is true, he's going to buy me lunch at that place. The point is that I think if you kind of said it earlier, Brian, and I've been thinking about this a lot. We are victims of who we know, what we know, and where we live, right?
Yeah, determinism. Sort of.
Well, and you've come back and said, oh my God, I was down in Fortescue area and everybody has a Trump sign. Okay. Here, I'm not saying they don't, Brian, but here there's not a damn supporter for Donald Trump within 2 square miles of my apartment. Not one, right? Not a Trump sign, nothing.
Lucky you.
Well, maybe not. I can't argue with him so much. I got on line. My point is, or we watch, Fox News slants it one way, MSNBC the other, CNN tries to play it straight. So I think we need to be aware of people like the congressional candidate, but I don't think we have to worry that there's going to be a black mass movement to Donald Trump. I don't know. I haven't. Maybe somebody out there has. I haven't had time to look at the crowd count. I think they were. I don't even know what they were shooting for today. I've seen the picture. Now they did have masks on. They did not test them going in. They did not have masks on going in. Some of them.
He did not speak very long either.
Well, because he's still disease ridden. But the idea of it is
probably shot himself up with steroids.
But I mean, think about this. Think about this. If you didn't know, you just look at that. Man, does he have black support, right? Man, does he have Latino support? But that's just a little snapshot of it. Brian, do you have if you have time? I don't even if you haven't queued it up.
Here. Yeah, there's another one here.
I'd like to have the antithesis. I just want to. Do you have the shorter of the 2 clips on the anti-Trump speaker? The woman.
Look, I'm going to put one up, and you tell me if this is good.
Well, put either one. I don't care.
Yeah, because
Yes, this one. This is the one I want up.
Okay, so again, I'm going to have to knock you off the mute here, Dave. And thank you. All right. Yes, it is. You can leave the door open if you don't mind. Thanks. All right, let's take this. Hold on, folks. If I can just get a volume adjustment here.
Zone ego.
Here we go.
Your COVID party with your president who wants to kill you and everybody else in this country if it serves his own ego. See, he doesn't care about you. He cares about his ego. He can sing your COVID party with your president who wants to kill you and everybody else in this country if it serves his own ego. See, he doesn't care about you. He cares about his ego. He can sing your COVID party with your president who wants to kill you and everybody else in this country if it serves his own ego. See,
Where are you, Dave? Where's Dave? Sound levels. Dave, get that link again and call in. I mean, just go ahead and get that link in. Do me a favor. Click that link again. Don't worry, folks. We'll be back. I'm still here, but I'm not going to continue until he gets the link. Dave. Let me see. In the room, add left. Hold on. All right. We'll be right back, folks. You rang? Hold on. Guest is in the green room. Add left. All right. There we go. And Dave?
You know what? You take the
No,
echo
I'll tell you.
off,
No, here's
Brian.
what happened. No. What
I
happened?
don't. No, you're not. Nobody gives a shit. You fucked up. Just take it like a man. Don't do a Donald Trump and blame Ronnie or the spirit in your house.
No. I
Shit.
accidentally clicked something that was.
Yeah, well, you accidentally fucked up then, okay? It's fine, bro.
We had a party while you were gone, by the way. It was
It's
great.
fine. Now, here's the interesting thing, Brian. That's why I want you to play those two
right.
clips.
And by the way, you kept going like this to me, got me nervous. So
That's
fault.
cut. It's a universal thing for cut.
Okay.
Jesus Christ. I'm taking over the whole show. Listen, I keep saying this because I don't know if you noticed, but both Joe Biden and Kamala are saying this a lot. Now, here's the thing. That's a Joe Bidenism. And if you go back and listen, she did it a couple of times. So I think that's kind of, so I'm going to start doing that. Now, here's the thing, Brian. Now, those two clips, there was less than 35 people, 30 to 35 people, less than 35 people separating those two people, right? Trump supporter, anti-Trump supporter. She's in this other clip, don't play it. She stands up, fuck Trump on the front of her shirt.
Cool.
And my point is that, you know, we have to be careful as we look at all this, because if all you listened to was her, right? If that's all you saw, Trump's in trouble. If you see the black congressional candidate,
Right.
Biden's in trouble. So you have to look beyond all that. Again, I just say this, you know, some people are very, very fortunate, and I happen to be one. 10 years Judy and I have been living in Washington, D.C., and there is not a place on the planet that
I think Gary wants everybody to leave to CNN right now, Dave, while you're talking.
Well, you know, yeah. No. Oh, I thought he was having a COVID party at his house. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll give you Gary's address. He lives out in the country. It's really very peaceful there. Anyway,
Gary.
Anyway, this idea that you know, we grab this moment and we can't. We have to look beyond that. So, but I thought that was an interesting, and back to why I love DC so much. You never know. I mean, we never know with Donald Trump. You know, but I mean, I'm talking about DC. You never know who you're going to see. You never know what you're going to see, even in a pandemic, right? You don't know what. And that's not to put down where anybody else lives too. I mean, there's beautiful places. We've lived other places, but that was it. So what else we got to talk about, Bri?
Well, I did actually want to talk about Barr and what he, you know, obviously is not doing, and that kind of frightens me, because now we do know that Trump obviously is really upset with Barr because he will not arrest Biden or Obama. Now, you might think that's funny, but I think he legitimately
is funny,
upset.
okay?
You know,
it's hilarious.
because Barr knows he can't do that. But now you do see.
Exactly.
I watch CNN. They you know, they're trying to throw these things out there with Mike Pompeo and the Hillary tapes. I mean, they're desperate and they're going to do these type of things. But
come on,
you know,
Brian.
Now hold it. Now what do you think would happen? Honestly, out of 100,
I'm sorry.
What do you think the chance is that Bill Barr would actually go that far and do that quasi-Russian thing and actually arrest somebody or let that kind of thing happen? I mean, it sounds crazy, but we're here to ask crazy questions. Out of 100.
If he were taking hallucinogens, which he doesn't take 3%, and I'll tell you why. People will do things up to a point, right? People will do things up to a point. Now, the big pressure that Donald Trump has wanted all along was this investigation, right, into Russia, and
the very thing that he did, he wants to happen to them. He calls it a coup.
There is, and I don't understand the psychological premise. I've read about it. I still don't quite get it. One of Donald Trump's conditions, as I understand it, is it's kind of a double condition. Anything he does, he believes everyone else does. I just do it better. I lie. I do. Yeah. Well, it's not quite projection, but it's along those lines. And then the second thing is, because he has, no moral compunction to do anything, he'll just make shit up, right, and throw it out and see if it sticks. But anyway, back to this. So it was Barr delegated it to his handpicked associate. The second in command quit because he felt the pressure of Trump, and Barr comes out and does an opposite of Comey. I don't know Comey. I know he's 6'9", so he's tall. I have seen him, and I can verify that.
That's how tall Peter the Great was, 6'9".
Why I think Comey did what he did, and we'll never know, but this is why I think he did. I think, like most Americans, he was convinced that Hillary was a slam dunk, and he didn't want to besmirch his or the FBI's reputation. Agreed. That they were sitting on something that could have said if that had been released. And I honestly don't believe, I think Bill Comey made a big mistake that any of us might have made. He underestimated Trump's strength once that came out. Okay. Now, Barr is doing absolutely the opposite, right? He's been told to produce something and he won't. Look, it's one thing nebulously, if you're an attorney, and certainly he's arguably the most significant attorney who doesn't sit on a Supreme Court in the land, to do something that's questionable, right? It's another. There's no evidence against Barack Obama. There is no evidence against Joe Biden. Of course not. There is no evidence against Hillary Clinton. And Barr may get disbarred as it is when he goes back to private practice. Were he to do that, win, lose, or draw, he would be disbarred. No pun intended. So no. That will not happen, and you asked me why, and that's why. And I don't think it will happen either. I just think that I think you bring it up. I think there's a desperate person. Well, you certainly can't underestimate. And let's look at that. We haven't talked about that tonight, and I think this is extremely important. Why is Trump so desperate? And I believe it comes down to three reasons, and I don't know which one is more important in his mind. They may be equal, but each one would give him the motivation to do what he does. First of all, it's ego, right? It is ego. That's been pointed out interestingly by columnists. They've said, actually, when Trump was running, he really didn't care if he won or lost, right? In 2016. Still joking a little bit. No, we don't see that now. So no, not number one, but I'm saying the first thing I mentioned is ego. The second thing is, we know that he owes a minimum of $400 million. Correct. Due in 2021. Now, you think that's the only bill he has coming due? Do you think it's all going to be? It is not. He could make that or make deals for that if he were president. I probably have more walking around Monday, and I have $7 in my wallet that Donald Trump has right now, right?
Although in this country, if you have billions of dollars of debt, you essentially have leverage because the banks will refuse to. I mean, they have to keep lending
notice
money.
What you just said. Notice what you just said, Brian. Did you hear what you just said? In this country, no, his money is tied up in Russia.
Right. Well, back in the the 1920s, they had debtors' prisons. Yeah, right. They had debtors' prisons in Europe that if you couldn't pay your debts, you obviously went to prison.
So there's that.
And don't forget, now Trump I guess he'll always have the Secret Service with him, but he can't protect all of his family. And there's no.
You want to know something that's interesting? You know what day he loses the Secret Service for a period of time, just a few minutes? On the transition day, as everybody repositions themselves.
Really?
So his Secret Service, I actually looked at that. And again, that's why I researched, just to rest my own mind, Brian. Because I mean, all these things that you and other people bring up, I think of them too. Actually, I believe it was 1838. It was before the Civil War. A governor in Texas refused to leave. He lost and he refused to leave. And it went to the court and he still refused to leave. He was locked in, locked himself in the governor's mansion's basement, literally.
Right. Well, by the way, one of the best Secret Service agents was for Ulysses S. Grant. That was James West. If you ever watched The Wild Wild West.
You didn't watch James. You watched Honey West, and you liked her tight costume. That was Honey was James West in drag. She looked good, yeah. But Brian,
it's a pop culture night, Dave.
You also jumped in. Which was very good ahead. So the third thing is the day he becomes a private citizen, Donald Trump is liable for all the financial crimes he committed in New York prior to the presidency. And
the spotlight's on him now, too.
And while you can't necessarily go back and charge someone for what they did as acting president, that does not include the payment of taxes. There's no statute of limitations. In other words, he'll be within the statute of limitations. So when you say desperate, that's putting it mildly.
Right.
Now, I've never understood this, but again, I'm not in that kind of power. If you started trashing me tomorrow, Brian, and we've been friends a long, long time, I would say, fuck you, fuck your show, I'm out of here, right?
Right.
And I don't care if you were paying me, by the way, he's not paying me a damn dime. But if you were paying me $6 billion, I don't care. It's not worth it. But people seem to attract with Trump, and he turns around and attacks them. Now that's two things. Number one, if he attacks you, you'd think they'd be pissed. Sessions, working your way back, right? So Barr doesn't do one goddamn thing, and he's twisted the law as much as he can for the president.
Correct.
And he doesn't do this one thing, and Trump says you're a piece of shit. Now, does Barr have any balls, any manhood, any spine? I mean, I don't know, but certainly that would call attention to that. And here's the biggest thing, and it's not original with me. I have been cheating, if you will, watching a little bit more cable than I normally do. Rachel specifically, I think, does an excellent job, as does the whole MSNBC crew.
Right.
Chris Hayes.
And that's something too. I know that you said, well, the Fox is here and MSNBC there, but there's a difference, I think, in the reporting on MSNBC than Fox. I can trust pretty much anything on MSNBC.
Well, you can, because you see the world as they see it, which I believe is the realistic way to
I
see
think they're pretty careful.
No, I said, but Fox sees the world the way they see it. It's just they don't see the world correctly. Anyway, we're not going to belabor that point today. Right. But Chris Hayes said others are saying it, and now you're beginning to see it. Republicans are
He's great, Chris Hayes, too. Yeah.
Republicans are distancing themselves. What do I say? Why do I say that? Ted Cruz, who Trump's called his wife ugly, right? Who said his dad killed JFK. He's still kissing his ass all the way through.
Right.
Said, I think we might be in trouble. If this doesn't go right, this is going to be just a killing for the GOP like Watergate. All right. Mitch McConnell. Now, Mitch McConnell has never been since day one a Donald Trump liker or a Donald Trump supporter. He used Donald Trump for his own gains. And Donald Trump really thought that Mitch McConnell respected him. He didn't. Mitch McConnell, notice what he said, Brian, when all this COVID thing comes out. Now he doesn't attack the president. I haven't been over there. I haven't been over there for about 8 weeks, the White House. And I went back and looked. He hasn't been. And he said, the president handles things differently over there. Not like I did, where we wear masks, right? And they're just swimming. Now, and you used the word tonight that you're not supposed to use. And I've used it, and I've had parents complain to me about the word. But I think retarded still does apply from time to time, very rarely.
Right.
And I would say Devin Nunes, your boy Matt Gaetz, they're retarded. Okay, they're going to go down with the ship. They don't know. Jim Jordan.
Louis Gohmert has to be in there also.
Well, Gomer doesn't have a brain.
And yet he was a judge, which is
well, come on, Brian.
Right. It's just
judges are political. Judges are political. Okay, they always were. They always will be.
Right.
The other one I would say is Lindsey Graham. Look what Lindsey Graham's doing. I mean, he does backstrokes and front strokes all the time.
Right. And refused to get tested for his debate.
Well, and and of course, what happens is when you don't give the truth, all right, and it doesn't matter. Let's suppose that I had a fascination for Stormy Daniels. Just suppose I did, and married 47 years, and we won't go on all the details, but Stormy might had some intimate moments, and let's suppose I was trying to hide them from my wife, right? And suddenly the pictures show up. It's better to say it right out. I mean, we all do that, right? No, and we get caught. And of course, Lindsey is caught in his lies right now. Jamie Harrison will do it, but Lindsey's never had a contest in the Senate. And Harrison is the real deal. So Lindsey could do one of two things. He could throw himself to Trump, but again, even he's backing. So, this started with Barr, and again, I can be wrong. Barr will not bring charges if there's no charges to be brought, and the proof of that is his refusal, which is the right thing to do, of not bringing forward a case that at best would exonerate Joe Biden, Hillary Clinton, and Barack Obama. And Barr Trump would
right,
say, maybe doing the best thing he can for Trump, right? It still leaves it open. And that's that idea of not telling truth. And that's the idea by hiding, Just
the perception within his group.
You know what the report is? You know what the rumor is down here? Do you know why Lindsey Graham refused to get tested for that? Now, I think he refused to get tested because he'd get his ass handed to him if they debate. That's what I think. But other people are speculating. Nope. Two big speculations. One
AIDS?
is getting close, not as close as you can get without being right. One is that he fears he has COVID, will be removed from the Judiciary Committee, and can't get the Judge Amy through. That is a possibility.
Possible.
And the other is testifying. Look, I don't care. Anybody can be any sexuality they want, unless they're a pedophile. And then they cross the line with me.
Right.
There has been intimations since Lindsey took office that Lindsey is more homosexual than he is heterosexual. There's been affidavits taken, but nothing's been done. And there is speculation. This is why when you don't tell the truth, or people don't believe you, or they want to believe the worst, there's speculation that he doesn't want to list the people that he's been with, because that would reveal that indeed he has been with people, that he's been claimed to be with. So, right now, the Republicans are caught. What they did, and if I've told them this is my belief. Not one Republican of the 16 who ran in the primary in 2016 with Donald Trump, like Donald Trump, or wanted him to be president, right? They wanted themselves to be president. All 16 had somewhat of a political base. Donald Trump had no political base.
Correct.
Donald Trump, using his TV techniques, using his false macho belittling, little Marco Rubio and, all the names that he gives, suddenly he's at power and he wins. And the Republicans thought, well, two things. Number one, if you were a Republican, like my brother-in-law voted for Donald Trump. My brother-in-law's not a bad guy. He's been a lifelong Republican. He thought that Hillary Clinton would not make a good president. He is a sexist in that sense, that he thinks a man can do a better job than a woman. He's not going to vote for Trump this time. But he did that, and there were a lot of my brother-in-laws. But in the political party, what they thought, Brian, they jumped on it. They said, "My God, we've got the GOP, and Trump's bringing in the Klan and the Aryan Nation, and these." Do you know the number of people who never voted in a presidential election who voted for Donald Trump is among the highest in history? In other words, he was what drew them. So the Republicans thought, now we're going to be able to kick ass on these Democrats.
Right.
And what they didn't do, it's a classic story. It's in literature and it's in life. You know, the Frankenstein story is misnamed. The Frankenstein was the scientist, not the monster. We can thank Boris Karloff for his stellar portrayal. Mm-hmm. It was Dr. Frankenstein and the monster. In Mary Shelley's original book, it's just called The Monster. So what happened is, as often happens in science, we're going to call the Republican Party the scientists. They've got this one, and what they didn't realize is they couldn't control the monster. Nobody controls Donald Trump. Now they're stuck with the monster, and their party is going to be decimated. And the best people in their party, the smartest people in their party, the most honorable people in their party are voting for Joe Biden, and not just voting for Joe Biden, but actively working for him. So the Republican Party, when this is over, has to decide Trump in or this. Trump, my best guess is to kill time before he goes to prison. He will first be a radio talk show host and working toward his own TV network, and then the state of New York will kindly give him some public housing for a while. That's the way I see it. You're right, Joey. Frank Einstein, or
because my middle name's Franklin, that's why he's.
I know. So, Brian, now I'm not trying to give you comfort, although I hope I did a little bit. You are absolutely right to be concerned about what Barr would do. You're 100% right. I just don't see him doing it, and it's just not my belief. I think there is proof that he had a much better case to bring forward and didn't.
Okay, well, let's just look at this. We got about 20 minutes left, Dave.
Okay.
You're
not going to sing, are you, in that 20 minutes? You've done that before. Please, dear God, don't sing. You're muted again, asswipe.
Thank you.
Oh, this is the best part of the show.
Okay.
Oh, he's back.
Dave, I said, by the way, you did a great dance before the show came on. He did dance. It was good.
No, I do this. I'm really pretty good for a 68-year-old man.
You groove. I'll tell you groove.
I know, I love the theme song. Not your new one tonight.
Right.
I mean, not the normal one. Go.
Right. Okay, so, you have eloquently and directly said, that things are the tide is just completely turning against Trump because all the numbers point to essentially a Democratic landslide. Is not much different than 2018, except we have a presidential election. And we know the type of person that Trump is. Everything is really coming to a head now. He's had COVID. He has made threats to Barr to basically, again, to arrest these people. And
Iran, don't forget, he just pledged to rain hellfire never seen before in human history on Iran.
Right. Well, again, but the point I'm trying to make is we have, 20 some days left, 20 some, I don't 28, know. Whatever it is.
It seems like an eternity.
He's losing by 12 points. And like you said, there's, he's got to win all of these states, and he's got essentially, as you've more or less said, he's got to kind of cheat and win and get those states. But
I more or less said he has to cheat to get them. There's no way
he has to cheat to get them. And Bill Maher brought this up last night. He isn't the type of guy who's just going to voluntarily go. He brought this up with Adam Schiff.
Absolutely.
Okay, so here you have a situation, and I think this is good and bad. I think that over the next 28 days, when we get to November 3rd, he's going to get more and more desperate, and we're going to see him actually do things. So we're going to see it.
I don't disagree, Brian. I told you. I don't disagree with you there. I told you it'll be the worst time.
So it's going to be. This is going to be a tough time. They've already done a lot of menacing damage by taking, these drop boxes out. And
but did you see though the last two cases?
Right. I think we won one in Pennsylvania or
We
something.
but we won and won one in Texas too, and the one in Texas, I'm not sure it was Pennsylvania or Texas. The one judge was a judge appointed by Donald Trump. Sometimes
Well, that's
judges
good.
follow
Sometimes
the
it
law.
works. Well, that'll be his head to roll. But again, the point is.
Thanks,
is that
Tammy. Always good to hear from you. I like your comments too.
Peace, Tammy.
So be safe out there.
But she's still listening, which is good. So that's good. So again, we see this desperation, and when people get desperate, they do crazy things. So anything can happen, which I will, toward the very end of the show, ask you what you think he's going to do. So my feeling is that these next 3 weeks, we're going to have a certain set of actions that he's going to take. And then after the election, especially the night of the election, it will obviously be closer the night of the election than it will be 2 or 3 days later when a lot of these absentee ballots come in and the mail-in ballots. Now, I actually voted today, too. I put my ballot in the drop box.
Do you mind telling me who did you vote for?
Well, let's just put it this way. My ticket went in a straight line.
Republican?
It went in a straight line with D. Okay, so you know what a D is, right? So
Well, yeah, I think I do.
okay. Well, I went straight D. You know what I mean? Anyway, let's not go there. But yeah, it was straight Democratic. I didn't vote for any Republican. I mean, there's always once in a while somebody I will actually say, okay.
I've done that too. I mean,
but this time I've had it. I mean, and I've rarely done that. I mean, I can count on my hand anytime, but I have done every once in a while. But and I'll tell you what, if I had known what Jeff Van Drew was going to be like, I certainly wouldn't have voted because it wouldn't have mattered. I wouldn't have voted. I would have voted the other guy because if I would have known he was going to do that kind of thing, I say let this other guy go in and make an ass of himself.
You know who knew Jeff Van Drew was going to do that? Jeff Van Drew, nobody else.
Yeah, well, I hope he gets clocked by Amy
don't
Kennedy.
knock yourself. I mean, you weren't knocking yourself, but nobody should say. For those who don't know, Jeff Van Drew was a Democratic congressman from South Jersey who switched parties and became a Republican. But worse than that, actually had his 15 seconds of fame. He was on all the news shows because he also not only said I'm Republican. I'm Donald Trump is my God.
Yeah, even he said that I have my undying support. Give my
undying support. Undying support. Well, people can die.
Right. Well, yeah. Well, yeah. I don't even want to go into Van Drew because he angers
but
me.
It's the point.
But Amy Kennedy's great. I actually spoke with her about a month and a half ago. She was great, and she liked my points, by the way. But that's another story. But
okay,
yeah,
Donald.
Okay. Look, okay.
I like her because she liked my points.
Yeah, well,
you know
what? You made me feel good. She was listening
Brian,
to me.
Yeah, I know. Brian, you are talking about the points you made in the conversation, not other points.
Just the points in the conversation. Okay.
Okay.
She was great. So, that's where I went with that. But yeah, I mean, I definitely am apprehensive because, and you do expect this too. I expect me something just absolutely disastrous, and what makes me fear this is not so much Trump. It's the assholes out there, and it's the people in Michigan. Those are the ones that will get more dead. The Kyle Rittenhouses, and then the idea that the Republican Party and Trump is going to back Kyle Rittenhouse. That's the one guy. I mean, I tell you, if they hung him tonight, I'd be happy because he deserves. And he can take his mother too. Come on the same noose. I mean, they're that bad.
And I love to make some kind of argument that you shouldn't worry so much. But this I don't know if you're aware of this.
That you can't control so much.
No. Here's the thing. His mother, who obviously endorsed what he did, right? I mean, we all kind of stick by our kids, but I think when you drive your son to kill someone,
I think she didn't go to a birthday party here.
That crossed the line. Do you know when she walked into a Republican women's, they gave her a standing ovation? A standing ovation, Brian.
You see, that's what gets me upset.
Now,
because as you say, no matter what happens after the election, we still have those bastards. They all of a sudden just switch. They get worse.
And here, and again, using
because they know what's going to happen.
Kamala and Joe Singh. And here's the thing with that, Brian. The other night, I often forget about this, and I don't know why. Maybe because I don't live in the Midwest. I often forget about Oklahoma City. For 3 years, I did First Amendment tours at the museum, as you know, as some other people know. And one of the exhibits was on Oklahoma City and that kind of thing. So, but even then, I kind of forget it because I kind of put my focus on other things in that room, whether it was 9/11 or the one that, I was fascinated with the Unabomber. That became that's an area that I gave talks on all the time. Timothy McVeigh was a little bit older than Kyle Rittenhouse. That's all he was. And so I think everybody's focusing on,
he was, Rittenhouse was 17 though. I mean, that's just,
well, what I'm saying, but I'm talking about,
comes in there like a Lone Ranger
Terry
at 17.
I mean, look, how to make everything, including nuclear bombs. Now, they're not going to make nuclear bombs. They can't get the fissionable material. But nitrate is what they use. Fertilizer. You can make a hell of a bomb in the Midwest using fertilizer and some other things. And that's what was used in Oklahoma City. So again, terrorists, once they move into terror, these are like, what would you say? Remember we used to use the frame the Keystone Cops?
Correct.
The ones that we've seen so far are the Keystone Cop versions of terrorists, but there's worse out there. And they're going to try for real damage if they do it. They are going to look at how other terrorist organizations did it, whether it was Al-Qaeda.
Where you need the FBI to really be the FBI.
But here's the thing. I haven't spent a lot of time with the Michigan thing, but I wanted to study it just enough so I knew. Do you realize that there's two facts that I know about that case? One is that the FBI had an informant of their own.
I think they had two, didn't they?
No, well, wait. One first. An informant of their own who was either in the organization or was so close to them that they're not. Then they turned two members of the organization into FBI informants. Now, being a child of the 60s, I'm always concerned about the FBI because J. Edgar Hoover, I can't say he was worse than Trump, but man, he was a smart Trump in the sense of power and how he used it. But the FBI, they're good, Brian. They're really, really good. It's like the military today. They're smart. This is not your father's army or my father's army. This is not J. Edgar Hoover's FBI. These people are good at what they do.
Well, James Comey was basically saying that they were good. He said,
and they are. I mean, I don't know all of them, but I have had occasion, both professionally in Washington and personally. And we have diplomats here. We have in our building, we have FBI agents. We have a Secret Service guy, and you get to talk to. I mean, they don't go into the details of their life, but these are. Now, the other thing is, right now, I'm pretty sure the FBI is pissed. They've been besmirched by the president. The CIA is pissed. Right. They've been besmirched by the president. So if they think, and they do, that Trump is in any way fomenting insurrection, and he is, if he is treasonous, and he is, they're going to work doubly and triply hard, right? But if you go back and you study terrorism, we all look at 9/11, which is horrid, okay? But that's kind of the anomaly. It's usually they call them lone wolves, but that's not really true. They're really they work on their own, but they take from all the groups, and that's when the FBI and police authorities can get surprised if you're, to use the term, off the grid. And that's why I always found the Unabomber so fascinating. Because he did it. I don't know if you realize this, he eluded the FBI longer than anyone else for a major crime. 17 years, while still committing the crimes. And how did he do it? He lived beyond a hermit's life in a cabin in Montana. So my point is, I'm not so much worried about the terrorist organizations doing stuff. I'm more worried about somebody who just says, you know what, Joe Biden's going to ruin this country, or they fucked with my boy Donald Trump, and they hit a federal installation. Now, again, let's look at that Michigan case. I think it's something that needs examining. They also had talked, but had disbanded. They were going to hit a police station first. I don't know if you knew this, Brian. They were going to hit that.
I heard that there was something mentioned about the police. You know.
And that's where that second group, that got the state charges. So, look, we should be cautious. We should be wary. There's a saying here in the Metro that I think every American should live with. If you see something, say something. If it's your son, if it's your daughter, if it's your husband, this is a time when, and that comes out of love, Brian. I mean, I know it'd be hard to turn in your son or your daughter or your wife or your nephew or your grandfather, but you're really doing them a service, by doing that, because they're going to end up dead or incarcerated for the rest of their lives if they're going to try something like this.
Right.
So will they try? Yes. Now, to Donald Trump himself, Donald Trump is nothing. He is nothing. He is beyond a nothing burger if he can't get people to do his bidding, right? That's just true. 95% of Americans.
Again, well, this is why you have the desperation there, and that's
I
what
understand
worries
that,
me.
but my point is, if he were the toughest man alive, that'd be a little bit, or the smartest man alive. He's not even the most evil man alive. He's just a big con man.
Well, he's the most dangerous man alive in terms of the power he has. Except for Putin,
at this point, yes, you're absolutely right. But again, do you realize? Let's look at the ultimate. Again, child of the '60s. The ultimate fear is the destruction of the world and nuclear war. More so to me than the environment. You mentioned tonight the environment. You may have some time to rectify it. If the button, what was Eva Destruction, the great song by Barry? It was a terrible song, but it really captured a lot. When the button is pushed, and they're all in the grave, there's no one to save, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But you do realize that Donald Trump alone cannot push the button. A second person, a military person, must push it in agreement with. The other thing is that gives me some comfort. When Richard Nixon was adjudged to be insane, and he was at the end, they gave him the wrong nuclear codes. And it would not surprise me if Donald Trump is not getting the lottery number from Wisconsin and not the nuclear codes tonight.
Well, he wouldn't know the difference. But
that's what I'm saying.
But he's also smart enough to know that they would try to do that. So he's probably on top of them.
He doesn't set the nuclear codes, Brian.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't. But
there
are people who are dedicated, and they will not be political, and they will do exactly the way it's supposed to be done. And like Mueller. Mueller did a disservice to us for doing what he did. He did it right by the code. He tried to be Mr. Even Steven.
And I still think
he got nothing out of it.
See, I disagree. I think he showed by doing it even Steven, by doing it the right way, by doing it the proper way, by doing it the moral way, you don't always win, right? But you don't defeat yourself. And what I mean by that is you don't sell yourself out, and you also show that you can still do that. The young lady who's now in all the talk shows, who was Pence's aide, I can't remember her name.
Right,
she was pleading last night to Dr. Redfield. And then the previous guy, I don't know if you read his letter. It was a marvelously written letter to Redfield saying, look, just stand up. It's time. I understand. I've been in your position, but some things are greater. And some people can rise to that. And some people can't. And we're not inside their heads. I'm going to pick Redfield, Fauci, good guys. Maybe they're staying there hoping they could have, they're in there risking themselves literally for COVID, right? If you meet with the president to try to do right. I think it would be more, I would agree with the former director who says, you stand up now, you quit, you come forward like the young lady has, and you tell the truth. And she literally said last night, far better than anyone could. She said, I was scared, I was frightened, but you know the old term, the truth shall set thee free? That's what she said. So tonight, Donald Trump, I'm going to end with this. Donald, I'm sure you're not listening. But if you were...
The NSA might be listening.
The NSA is fine. Here it is, Donald. I'm going to quote you Led Zeppelin from Stairway to Heaven, right?
Somehow I knew you were going to say Stairway to Heaven.
There's two paths you can go on, right?
Right.
But in the end, there's basically always time to change. And Donald, you're not going to change. I know that. But Donald, please think about your grandchildren. Please think about your great-grandchildren. You've already besmirched the name Trump forever. Don't make it worse. If you lose for the first time in your life, and I know this is asking a tremendous amount from you, Donald, and I don't know if you're even constitutionally capable of delivering it, but please just leave without making a mess.
Well
Brian,
said.
I'll let you close out the
Okay,
show.
I will close it out if you don't mind, and I just want to say a few things. First of all, I want to have a shout out again to everybody who has joined this group. We hit over 1,000 this week. We're finally at that mark, and we started out with basically 2 or 3 members.
Right.
David, myself, and Joey Folger.
Joey.
Right, Joey, and Joey was one of the founding members. But it took a while to get there, and I remember when I was doing the reality report. We kind of depended on Guy McPherson to get all these numbers. And I'm so proud now that, and I think I figured a way out to do this, and that is, find people who are like you.
Thank you, Tammi.
And they'll come, and they will come, and it's, it's kind of like the movie. And you cannot know how much David and I appreciate the input you have. And you notice most of you have, give comments, and we actually prefer that to questions because, we're not experts. We're just honest people who keep up with, what's happening in the country and in the world. So again, we appreciate it, and we hope that you'll keep active on our Facebook page. It's very important to us. Secondarily, the YouTube page is important too, because we want, well, not the page, but the channel is important because we want to branch out. But if that doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. But it would do you much better if you would obviously subscribe to the YouTube channel, because that way any type of notification, you'll get it. We don't ask for a thing. This is not monetized. We're just doing this. We're just doing this because it means
We don't have anything else to do.
No, we don't have anything else to do. But again, thank you, and everybody understand we're at this critical moment. You've got to go out and vote. I voted today. I know Dave voted as soon as he got the opportunity to vote.
September 18th.
Right. So you've got to get up there early before they get rid of the drop boxes or before the Michigan militia comes out or whatever you want to call them. Because I know your neighbors are crazy. I mean, I went through a place called Pittsgrove today, and every house had a sign with Trump. And next, I guess maybe Monday I'll get a. No, I guess the mail isn't Monday, but I'm getting something in the mail with a Biden sign. So we'll see if I don't get any holes put through our house. So we'll see. Going to do it. I'm going to do
Joe,
it.
I mean, yeah, Joe. Brian, how do you know what the hell your name is? Listen, one more thing. I love working with you. We have a great time. It sounds like the switch between Rachel to Lawrence O'Donnell. We're on the same show. But would you do me one favor? Would you do me one favor? Between now and Saturday, would you get some will grow for your head? And get some hair back.
Yeah, there is hair here. I can feel
Brian,
it.
you have hair. You just shaved the damn thing.
Okay. No, it feels so much better. Actually, obviously it was short, but it was going in weird directions, and I couldn't take. I was going like this. I said, you know what, just take it off. Just take it off. And
well, Brian, okay,
if I lose weight, it'll be a better thing. I mean, I got.
No, I'm going to say something. You just said just take it off. I'll live with your head if you never take off your pants, your shirt, or your underwear on this show.
All right. Okay. You're always concerned about my underwear, which is kind of creepy.
Ronnie's
you have
told
not
me what
seen my
like.
underwear, believe me.
I said Ronnie's told me what it looks like.
Yeah,
Your
okay.
wife.
All right, Dave. For the Go Gophers and Boris and Natasha and David Price, the guy who has nothing better to do on Tuesday nights and apparently on Saturday nights.
Or Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, Mondays, and Sundays either.
He has enough time to check out Stormy Daniels, though, that's for sure. But hey, a lot of guys do. So in any case, thanks, Dave, and we'll see you next week. We're trying to get Sean Dudley on from LA. We haven't had him on yet on Divided We Stand. He's great. He really is, and it'd be good to talk if we can get him. Otherwise, we'll see you next week. Let's just hope that the country holds itself together, and who knows what will happen between now and next Saturday. So thank you. And Joey Fulcher's causing trouble here, so I think I'm going to sign off right now. Joey, you're in trouble. Okay? All right, folks. Have a great night. Adios.